What's up YouTube, this is Bystander X79 guys. Today I'm coming to you with my latest deck profile video for April 2020. And today guys, we're going to be looking at my updated Simorgh deck. Now the majority of the Simorgh cards came out in last year's Corpus to Set Rising Rampage. And when this archetype was initially revealed, I was kind of hyped about this deck. It used one of my favorite summoning mechanics in this game, tribute summoning, to build boards of these really powerful monsters, battle stat wise. And it had all the aspects of a beatdown style deck. When I started reading into the effects actually could respond to certain cards your opponent would activate and be able to either negate or even utilize their effects to break apart your opponent's board. So it gave a little bit more of a control aspect as well. So this deck really balances a beatdown style strategy with a control aspect very well. With that being said, you have a lot of the smaller monsters being able to recur themselves out of the graveyard to give you your tribute fodder for summonings or effects. You have the lockdown potential of the various negates in this deck. And now, even more recently, with the release of Dual Overload and the release of the Simorgh Link Monster, we actually can put an additional monster on board, which can even further add another layer of negates on to this deck. Alright? I'm very excited about this deck's potential moving forward. I know some of the players kind of moved away from this deck primarily because since it doesn't really respond to monster effects, only spell and traps. I can understand the reason why, since the game has become more monster effect dependent. Be that as it may, this deck is still powerful, and if your opponent isn't prepared for it at all, it's going to take wins. Alright? So, without further ado, we're going to start getting into this. We're going to play 3 copies of Simorgh Bird of Beginnings. Alright? Primary reason why we're running 3 is basically because of this effect. You can activate the effect, and you get an additional normal summon of a Simorgh monster onto the field, which is just amazing. Getting multiple bodies on the field, especially with a tribute summon deck, definitely does pay off. You can even tribute summon off this card. If you have the field spell up, that can reduce the number of tributes you can use for your wing-based monsters. It's just an amazing card to have. One quick note before we move on. All the smaller Simorgh monsters do have the ability to recur themselves out of the graveyard as long as your opponent doesn't have any spells and traps on the field. You can special summon them out in defense position. Alright, there is 2 downsides. One, you're locked into summoning only winged beasts for the rest of the turn, and 2, if the card leaves the field, it's banished. But however, just getting that build built, it works. Alright, so definitely one card you want to be seeing in your opening hand. The other card you want to be seeing in your opening hand is one of the 3 copies of Simorgh Bird of Bringing. Bird of Bringing is the Stratos for the Simorgh archetype. Normal summon him out, and you're searching your deck for any Simorgh card in your deck. Monster, spell, or trap, which means you can actually pick the card you need for the situation you're in, whether going first or going second. It's a great utilitarian card. Definitely at 3, you want to be seeing this card in your opening hand as well. Alright. Simorgh Bird of Calamity is a 1-of in this deck. It is a foolish burial for the Simorghs, allowing you to pitch one of the smaller Simorghs so you can get it online and on the field for tribute fodder. Or you can even pitch one of the bigger birds to the graveyard so you can special summon it out later via its own effect. Alright, so definitely a very handy card. Been testing this deck out a lot recently, and to be very honest, 1 Calamity is all you really need. On to the big birds. The first one is Dark Simorgh. Alright, Dark Simorgh, in my opinion, is one of the MVPs in this deck. Alright, on the field, its continuous effect prevents your opponent from setting any cards, and that includes your own, which is just such an amazing thing. It prevents your opponent from playing trap cards, prevents your opponent from hiding their monsters in defense position, and when combined with one particular trap card in this deck that we'll see later, yeah, it'll probably lock out your opponent from even utilizing half their deck. Alright? Such a great card. You can normal summon it or special summon it. The special summon requires you to banish a dark or a dark and a wind attribute monster from your graveyard. If you're summoning from the hand, if you're summoning from the graveyard, the two monsters have to come from your hand. Alright? So there are ways to get this card out onto the field. Definitely the card you need to be running in this deck. Alright? Next up, we got 2 copies of Simorgh, Lord of the Storm. Lord of the Storm is pretty cool. Alright? Big boss monster, 2900 attack points, so you can get power boost up even higher with the field spell on the field. When your opponent turns around and activates a spell or trap card, this card responds to that activation. You can tribute off one of your Wing Beast monsters and basically spin 1 card on your opponent's field back to their deck. It's actually a very awesome control aspect card to break apart your opponent's board when they're trying to build their own. So, very cool interaction there. It doesn't negate the spell or trap though, so just be careful with that. If a Simorgh card will be destroyed by battle or card effect while this card's in your graveyard, you can just add this card back to your hand, so you always will have a boss monster in hand, ready to summon out onto the field. And the primary reason why you want to be having a boss monster always in hand to summon out is basically because of this bad boy right here, Simorgh of Darkness. Alright? Darkness, whenever you try to summon out one of your larger birds from this deck, if Simorgh of Darkness is in your hand or in your graveyard, you could be special summoning out alongside that bird, which means having 2 birds on the field is better than having just 1. Alright? And not only that, but you also have a cool effect whenever your opponent activates a spell or trap. You can tribute off one of your other Wing Beast monsters and negate the activation of a spell or trap. Alright? So having this bird on the field, one other Wing Beast monster on the field, Dark Simorgh, and that face-up trap card I was talking about, yeah, you're going to get the idea. The opponent's losing control over half their deck, and any particular cards that would have to activate from the hand to try to negate you, you can respond to and basically render those cards powerless. Definitely a 3-up in this deck. Alright. Moving on. The other big bird in this deck is going to be one of the 2 copies of Mist Valley Apex Evian. The primary reason why I'm running 2 is you want to be opening up with this card in your hand. Basically because it has this awesome negate ability by sending any Mist Valley card back to your hand. You can negate the activation of a spell, trap, or even monster effect, which is just huge. It does add that extra layer into the deck for protection against monster effects. And I can tell you right now, it is so worth it because hard drawing into this guy on your opening hand, or even having it in your opening hand, just allows it to be a little bit more easier to get out Mist Valley Thunderbird onto the field, utilizing the Simorgh Link's effect. Primarily because this way you don't have to worry about so many cards being on your field and your opponent's field. You can actually be able to get the card out pretty easy since it's only this level 3. Alright, and we'll go through the summoning of these cards when we get to the link. Alright, last but not least, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Standard in all decks nowadays, all decks search, so you want to be able to stop this, as well as having decks that dump cards from the deck to the graveyard, or special summon from the deck. It's such a great utilitarian card, and it can just hurt a lot of different decks if used at the right time. That's it for the monsters. 3 copies of Alborz, the Sacred Lands of Simorgh. Alborz is the field spell. It powers up all Wind Attribute monsters on your field, and FYI, both Dark Simorgh and Simorgh of Darkness count as Wind Attribute monsters while on the field, so they do get the power bonus. A lot of people question that. You can reveal one of the higher levels Wing Beast monsters in your hand, and then all high level Wing Beast monsters for the rest of their turn can be summoned with 1 less tribute. So the level 7s and level 8 monsters can be summoned up with just 1 tribute off of your field, which is just huge. And if you control a Wing Attribute monster on the field, you can immediately resolve the second effect, which allows you to tribute summon one of your Wing Beast monsters from your hand. Awesome. Just awesome. Gives you all the necessary extra summons. Alright? Foolish Burial, because you want to have a utilitarian card that can basically put any of the other cards you want in the graveyard into the graveyard, that so you don't have to worry about having your Calamity negated. 2 copies of Pot of Extravagance. I'm only running 2 copies primarily because we are special summoning from the extra deck a little bit more in this particular build, and I didn't want to take away or potentially lose the card you want to be getting out onto the field via it. So that's why only 2. Three copies of Simorgh Onslaught. Onslaught is just an amazing card. You pitch a wing-based monster from your hand to your graveyard, and then you're able to search your deck for any 2 Simorgh monsters with different attributes to add to your hand. Just so useful. This card also does have a graveyard effect where you can banish it and reveal 1 high-level Simorgh monster, and that monster loses 1 level for the rest of the turn. Alright. Simorgh Repulsion. Alright, pitch a wing-beast monster from your hand, and you can actually get a giant Trunade effect, which basically blows all your opponent's spells and trap cards off the field, thus allowing you to special summon your smaller birds from the graveyard onto the field and really get the deck going. It has the same in-graveyard banishment level reduction effect that Onslaught has as well. 1 copy of Terraforming. You want to be seeing your field spell as much as possible. Since this is a tribute summon deck, 2 copies of the Monarch Stormforth allows you to utilize your opponent's monsters for tributes to break their boards, which is pretty damn awesome in my opinion. And it's also non-targeting, which means certain monsters that can't be targeted now can be picked off for your own tributes. So, very cool. Last but not least, we have 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. With the amount of attack that this deck can actually put on board, giving your opponent extra 1,000 life points really isn't that much of a thing for drawing 1 card. So, for the traps, been referring to this trap a lot, especially with Dark Simorgh. 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, you probably guessed it. Forces your opponents to set their spells before playing them on their next turn. Add in Dark Simorgh, your opponent's not playing spells. So yeah, all you gotta really do is worry about is cards like Infinite Impermanence or Evenly Matched, and with the built-in negates that you have with Darkness Simorgh and even Misspell it, Apex Evian, yeah, you're pretty much going to be able to control the duel at that point. To help with the monster effects and shut down your opponent's turns, 2 copies of Harpy's Feather Storm, excuse me. Alright? Really awesome card. Flip it up during your opponent at the start of your opponent's main phase. They can't use any monster effects. It hurts them and shuts down their turn, so definitely a card you want to be running. 1 copy of Simorgh Sky Battle. Simorgh Sky Battle basically protects all your birds from being targeted and destroyed by card effects. Huge. Alright? It does have another awesome effect where you can actually just send this card to the graveyard, return 2 Simorgh, high-level Simorgh monsters with different attributes back to your hand. And by doing that, you basically blow all cards off your opponent's field, and then both players lose life points equal to the number of cards that were blown off the field times 500. Alright? Pretty cool way to actually burn for game in this deck. So, definitely an awesome card to have. Alright? And last but not least, we are running 2 copies of Solemn Judgment just for some extra negates to keep monsters off boards, negate a spell or trap card that you might not be able to respond to if you don't have enough tribute fire on the field. Alright, that's it for the main deck, 40 cards. On to the extra deck. I'm going to start off by talking about the new bird on the block. Alright, Simorgh, the Bird of Sovereignty. Oh boy. Alright, you can't use this card as link material. Not an issue. Really, it has 3 arrows pointing face down, the best arrows you could actually have for a link 3, in my opinion. Okay, and the next coolest thing is that itself and any cards that it points to cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. Alright, so it's basically attacking this with something like Sky Battle can add multiple layers of protection onto your monsters on the field, which is just huge. Alright. And not only that, during the end phase, you can count up the number of unused spell and trap zones on both players' field, and then you're allowed to special summon a another Wing Beast monster from your deck to the field with a level that's equal to or less than the number of unused spell and trap zones. Very awesome. You can use, if there's not a lot of spell and traps that are on the field, you can easily just bring out Apex Avian. But like I said, I'm using this more to bring out Thunderbird, since Thunderbird is a 1-of and Apex Avian is a 2-of in the deck. Alright? For some other Link monsters, we got some standard Link. We have a Link Karibo in there because Bird of Beginning is a Link 1, and you can easily link it off for Link Karibo. And if when Bird of Beginning comes back onto the field, you can easily tribute it off to bring Link Karibo back, so you can utilize it multiple times. Just to bottom out your opponent's attack, so very awesome. Salamangreat Amirage, awesome card. You actually have 6 targets in this deck to actually utilize with Amirage. Has all 3 copies of Beginning and Bringing to summon this guy out. Just a great card to actually protect monsters. Not your normal summon, which is huge. Alright. We got 3 copies of Harpy Conductor. Harpy Conductor is actually very important in this deck. You can easily make her with any 2 Wing Beast monsters. The primary reason why we have her in this deck is basically because Harpy's Featherstorm can actually be activated from your hand onto the field if she's on the field as well. So you have that extra layer of that trap to spring on your opponent with that card in the extra. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. Typically you make her before you bring back any of your small Simorghs. This way you can actually link her off to go into the Simorgh link, which is typically the play I do. That makes the Simorgh link pretty much untargetable and unkillable by card effects now. So now your opponent really has a problematic monster on the board. Besides going to Simorgh link, you have other Link monsters in this deck that you can easily bring make her into. So definitely worth having her in the deck. Alright. Running a Nightmare package. Pretty self-explanatory. Goes after special summon monsters, goes after back row, spins an A card back to the deck. I am running the Boral brothers, as I call them. Borolo breaks apart boards. Boral Sword can OTK. And the last is Saruja Skulldread. Oh, I like running Saruja Skulldread, not because of its 4-name effect. The 3-name effect is really what I aim for with this particular deck, because it gives you an additional special summon from your hand, and it's just worth it. And an additional power boost also works well in this deck as well. So definitely something that you want to have in this deck. And I do run 2 rank 8s in this deck. Dingirsu, pretty self-explanatory. Great card to actually help send any problematic monsters off your opponent's field, as well as give your other monsters protections via its own effect, which is cool. And then to help with the negates, we have number 38, Hope Harbinger, Dragon Titanic Galaxy, which just negates spells. It can also redirect attacks to itself by detaching materials. So, awesome card to have in this to back up your Simorghs. Guys, that is it for my Simorgh deck profile for April 2020. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe. Enable notifications so you don't miss a single upload. Check out the description box below. Find an invite link to my Discord server. Join a conversation. Would love to have you. Follow me on social media, Twitter and Reddit. And if you want to help support the channel, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link in the description box below. Use it in good health, guys. As always, until next time, peace!